All right, welcome back, everybody. It's Bruce from the Epic Experiment, and we're back with another deck tech. All right, today we're talking about one of my favorite decks that I built. It is Satya, Aetherflux Genius. So this is a Jeskai colored energy deck. Now, I have to say, I really like this deck because long ago, this deck was a Shu-Yun the Silent Tempest deck. And I had put a number of energy cards in it before energy was really a thing. And over time, I acquired some more energy cards and tweaked things, and it became a full-on energy deck. So then when they printed some energy commanders, I was totally on board. So I have both the pre-constructed deck from Fallout, but I also built Satya to replace Shu-Yun. So let's see what Satya does. So one blue, red, white for a 3/5 legendary creature, human artificer, menace, haste. Whenever Satya Aetherflux Genius attacks, create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of up to one target non-token creature you control. You get 2 energy. At the beginning of the next end step, sacrifice that token unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. So you can make duplicates of any of your creatures, complete with end of the battlefield triggers, and then you can pay for them if you want and let them stay on the battlefield, or you can let them disappear and not pay the energy. So, super interesting card. So since Satya really encourages you to attack, Whispersilk Cloak was the first card that I put in this deck after the ramp package that we'll talk about in a second. So Whispersilk Cloak is probably an artifact that many people have sort of overlooked over the years. Equipped creature is unblockable and can't be the target of spells or abilities, meaning you're going to be able to use Satya with relative impunity if you can keep it on the board long enough to equip this. So super useful little artifact. This is sort of an outmoded ability now. Lightning Greaves and the Swiftfoot Boots sort of take its place, but in this one, because it grants unblockability, is kind of exactly what I want. Now let's talk about how I'm going to get my commander into play in a hurry, okay? Because it's a kind of plays like a stormy deck. You kind of want a pretty good ramp package, but you're in kind of weird colors for it. So we have a ruby medallion and we have a sapphire medallion. So these are medallions that were reprinted in Modern Horizons 3. They're old, so one is to reduce your blue spells by 1, and the other reduces your red spells by 1. Pretty useful if you want to cast a flurry of spells all at once. We have the good old Sol Ring, can't go wrong there, and we have an Arcane Signet. Now, we have a lot of spells in this deck, instants and sorceries, so Stormkiln Artist is a sort of perfect thing for you because it makes a treasure token whenever you cast an instant or a sorcery spell. So super useful, makes a bunch of treasure tokens that you can then use to storm off. All right, we're kicking lands all over the battlefield here. All right, and then last but not least, we have Battle Hymn. Because we're making tokens, the thought being that you could use Battle Hymn to make a whole bunch of red mana. If you have a bunch of tokens that you've been able to keep in and stick around, you're going to be able to get some pretty good stuff out of it. All right, so that's my ramp package. A little on the small side, but a lot of your spells are relatively cheap, so you're going to be able to find stuff. And the way you can combat things if you don't have a lot of mana production in your deck is you can go and draw a lot of cards. So let's draw cards. Let's talk about how we do that. Okay. So first off, we have a Mulldrifter. This is sort of one of those generic, useful staple cards that I put in lots of decks. It just does what you want it to do. All right. And later on in the game, if you make copies of a Satya, it has a useful enter the battlefield trigger. Draw you some more cards. Wheel of Potential. This is sort of like a Wheel of Fortune, but with energy clause on it. So 2 in a red, you get triple energy. Then you may pay X energy. Each player may exile their hand and draw X cards. If X is 7 or more, you may play cards you own exiled this way until the end of your next turn. Super useful card. It's a May ability, so it doesn't punish your opponents the same way that Wheel of Fortune does, but it's also not a $300 card. Glimmer of Genius is just a useful way to make a little energy, draw a couple cards, instant speed, really like it. Factor Fiction is another just useful generic card that if you're not familiar with it, you probably should. Expressive Iterations fits in that same mold. This one's nice and cheap, so you're going to be able to get some pretty good use out of this if you can, cast it from your yard or reuse it. So super good card. Treasure Cruise, the Delve cards, we have Dig Through Time as well. These are going to be useful things to help you dig through your deck. Because of the delve, you can make them cost quite little, and you're going to get some good value out of them. All right. Then we have Tune the Narrative, which is draw a card, you get 2 energy. Super useful as a little instant. Nothing here much to talk about. Rush of Inspiration is an MDFC, so it has a land on the back that taps for red or blue. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card at random unless you pay 2 energy. So the fact that this, draws you a couple of cards, you may have to pitch something away. That's okay. You don't really mind. Unexpected Windfall. This is just going to draw you a couple of cards, and then make you some treasure tokens. And then Outpost Siege. This is a useful one. This would be one of those ones I'd be looking to upgrade pretty soon, I think. But you're always picking the cons mode on this. So the cons mode of this, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library until the end of turn. You may play that card. So it's just going to generate you a little bit of card advantage. It is Impulse Draw, so it doesn't put it in your hand, but sometimes you're okay with that. All right, now let's talk about how this deck makes energy, because that's really the crux of the matter here. So we're making some energy with a couple of pretty useful things. All right, so first off, we have cards like Decoction Module. Let's talk about Decoction Module for a second. 2 mana artifact. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get an energy. And then 4 tap. Return target creature you control to its owner's hand. I have, in my life, never used a secondary ability. It's always this passively sits on the battlefield and generates energy. Okay, cool. Aetherstorm Rock. 2 and 2 white for a 3/3 with flying. It's a bird. Whenever Aetherstorm Rock or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you get an energy. And then whenever Aetherstorm Rock attacks, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it and tap up to 1 target creature defending player controls, meaning you can use this to get in. Volatile Storm Drake. This is a Gilded Drake for energy cards. So flying, Hexproof from activated and triggered abilities. When Volatile Storm Drake enters the battlefield, exchange control of Volatile Storm Drake and target creature and opponent controls. If you do, you get 4 energy. Then sacrifice that creature unless you pay an amount of energy equal to its mana value. This is a really good, it's an energy production card, but it also is a payoff. And if you can blink this thing, you could steal a bunch of things. I really like this card. Big fan. Guide of Souls. So 1 white for a 1/2. Human Cleric. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you get 1 life and 1 energy. Whenever you attack, you may pay 3 energy. When you do, put 2 +1/+1 counters on a flying counter on target attacking creature. It becomes an angel in addition to its other types. Super good. All right. We have, where's the other card? Is it Generatorium? So if you would get 1 energy, you get that many +1 energy instead. And then tap, draw a card, activate only if you paid or lost 4 or more energy this turn. All right. And then we also have things like Dreamtide Whale. This doesn't have energy written on it, but this card is pushed. So 2 and a blue for a 7/5 whale with Vanishing. And whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, proliferate, which means you can proliferate your energy counters. Now, since this is going to make a whole poop load of cheap spells, but also makes energy pretty readily, you're going to have something to proliferate. Don't you worry. All right, we have some payoffs for it. We have things like an Aethertide Whale. So when Aethertide Whale enters the battlefield, you get 6 energy. Pay 4 energy, return Aethertide Whale to its owner's hand. You really want to blink this, make a bunch of energy all at a go, so you can then power up, maybe using Satya's ability to duplicate something or use the energy on something else. We have Unstable Amulet. When Unstable Amulet enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, Unstable Amulet deals 1 damage to each opponent. So pay 2 energy, exile the top card of your library. You may play it until you exile another card with Unstable Amulet. This plus your Outpost Siege gives you access to some pretty good ways to exile things and cast them again. So it's just pretty handy. And I like the ping effect. It's pretty good. Confiscation Coup is my buddy. So 5 blue for a sorcery. Choose target artifact or creature. You get 4 energy. Then you may pay an amount of energy equal to that permanent's mana value. If you do, gain control of it. That's a big payoff for your stuff. Whirler Virtuoso. When it enters the battlefield, you make 3 energy, pay 3 energy, create a 1/1 color, stop your artifact creature token with flying. If you can make a bunch of energy, you can make a bunch of creatures, which then powers up things like your Battle Hymn, or gives you things you can duplicate with your Satya. And we have Royal Cartographer. So it's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under control, you get 1 energy. Pay 6 energy, draw 3 cards. That's a great way to keep your hand full. All right, we've got a couple of interesting payoffs. We have an Aether Revolt. So 2 red with an enchantment. Has Revolt. As long as a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. And whenever you get 1 or more energy, Aether Revolt deals that much damage to any target. So if you can find a way to have that whale come in and out, and you proliferate tokens, you proliferate counters and energy, your Aether Revolt is going to do a lot of damage to your opponents in big chunks. They're going to die. Lightning Runner. So this is 3 red for a 2/2 with double strike and haste. It's a human warrior. And whenever Lightning Runner attacks, you get 2 energy. Then you may pay, I guess that's 8 energy. If you pay, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there is an additional combat phase. Additional combat phases are a brutal way to punish the table, and a great way for you to win the game. All right. We then have a couple of other interesting targets that if you want to copy things with Satya, you can do them. So Diluvian Primordial is an old one from Gatecrash. So 5 blue for a 5/5 with flying. Whenever Diluvian Primordial enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If a card cast this way would be put into its graveyard, exile it instead. So blinking this or copying this would be a really great tool to get some pretty good value out of your opponent's graveyards. We have a Balor, which is a interesting card. 3 red for a 5/5 with flying. It's a demon. Whenever Balor attacks or dies, choose 1 or more. Each mode must target a different player. Target opponent draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. Target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact. Balor deals damage to target opponent equal to that number of cards in their hand. I think this card is an interesting card. I'm pretty interested in trying it out. Archaeomancer. This is another one that Satya loves to copy. 2 blue for a 1/2 human wizard. When Archaeomancer enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Aragorn, King of Gondor. 1 blue, red, white for a 4/4 legendary creature human noble with vigilance and lifelink. When Aragorn, King of Gondor, enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. So this is fun. I like this one. And if you make a copy of it, you make sure you steal back the monarch every turn. Whenever Aragorn attacks, up to 1 target creature can't block this turn. If you're the monarch, creatures can't block this turn generally. So you're just going to smash people upside the face. And Chasm Skulker. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Chasm Skulker. And of course, we have Torrential Gearhulk. So this is a great one to make a copy of. So it has flash. It's a 5/6 for 4 blue. When Torrential Gearhulk enters the battlefield, you may cast target instant or sorcery card target instant card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So Satya loves to make copies of this, so you can use your instants all over again. Now let's have a talk about the interaction in this, because of this deck is being a little bit on the slow side. You need to be able to interact with your opponents. So we have lots of interactive on the stack and lots of removal. So let's start with, we have a Flare of Denial, just counter spells, very good. We have a Mana Drain. This one is helps us catch up on some of our ramp for a turn. If we bag a big spell with it, we can make use of that mana. Insidious Will. I like this one. This one is one that people don't talk about very much. So 2 blue. So you can choose 1. Counter target spell. You may choose new targets for target spell. So like a deflecting swat sort of. And then copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Yes, please. We have a Flare Duplication, which is going to be similar. You're going to use it probably to copy their instant or sorcery, usually a counter spell to fire it right back in their face. We have Reverberate, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. We have a Counter Spell. This is just good old counter magic. And we have Aether Spike, which is the energy related one. So 1 and a blue, instant choose target spell, you get 2 energy. Then you may pay amount of energy, counter that spell unless its controller pays 1 for each energy paid that way. Pretty useful way to make sure you spike somebody's cards and make sure you don't get blown out by their removal. Removal package is pretty robust. We have a Galvanic Discharge. So, 1 for an instant, choose target creature or planeswalker. You get 3 energy. You may pay any amount of energy. Galvanic Discharge deals that much damage to that permanent. So if they have a big creature on the board, let's say call it a 6/6, and you have a number of other energy floating around in your energy pool, you could use all 6 of them with this particular thing. So 1 mana to potentially kill a 5/5, a 6/6, or bigger perhaps. I'm kind of on board. A Braid, not a lot to be said about this one, just useful card. Got 2 good modes, 3 to a creature or destroy an artifact. Source of Plowshares. This card is just really useful. One of the best removal spells in the game. Target creature is removed entirely from the game. That means exiled now. That's an old text. Creature's controller gains life points equal to its power. All right. We have Reality Shift, another exile effect. This one's in blue. Exile target creature. Its controller manifests the top card of its library. So take the top card of the library. They flip it down face first as a 2/2. The idea being that whatever you're zapping with this probably is going to be weaker now as a 2/2 than it would ever been if you just left it on the battlefield. Harness Lightning. So 1 and a red for an instant. Choose target creature. You get 3 energy. Then you may pay any amount of energy. Harness Lightning deals that much damage to that creature. If Galvanic Discharge is Lightning Bolt, this is Lightning Strike. Same idea. You can spend the energy, if you have extra energy in your pool, to zap it, nuke a bigger creature. Chaos Warp. Just a useful removal spell in red. Lightning Helix. Sometimes a little bit of life gain's handy. I don't know. Something useful. Static Prison. This one is absolutely useful. So a single white. When Static Prison enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Static Prison leaves the battlefield. You get 2 energy. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, sacrifice Static Prison unless you pay energy. All right. We have Path to Exile. Enough said. Similar to Source of Plowshares, but now they pick up a basic land. And Hostilities. Board wipe. Wrath of the Skies. Energy board wipe. And Vandal Blast. Artifact board wipe. Super good. All right, what have I got left, you ask? Well, we've got my lands over here, but we're talking about how do we win the game. These are how you win the game. All right. So first one is the Saheeli Rai Felidar Guardian combo. This is, if you're not familiar with this, I suggest you go and check it out. But basically, Saheeli says that one of her abilities, her -2, is you can make a copy of Felidar Guardian, which then blinks Saheeli. She comes back as a new entity. You can then blink the Felidar Guardian again to make another copy to blink Saheeli Rai. You end up with an infinity Felidar Guardians, and you can kill the table because they all have haste. It's kind of like slow version of Deceiver Exarch Splinter Twin combo. Super good way to win the game if you need to get it done. Then we have Peregrine Drake and Deadeye Navigator. These are these 2 cards. This combo with all sorts of things. They're notorious for it. So 4 blue for a 4 and a blue for a 2/3 flying Drake. Whenever Peregrine Drake enters the battlefield, untap with the 5 lands. Deadeye Navigator is 4 blue for a 5/5 spirit with Soul Bond, meaning you can Soul Bond them together and they gain this ability. As long as Deadeye Navigator is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has 1 and a blue, exile this creature, then return it to the battlefield under your control. Every time you blink Peregrine Drake, you're going to untap 5 lands, meaning you can now float infinite mana super easily. So you can do that, and then at some point, if you want to go and use a Combustible Gear Hulk, and you want to flicker it a bunch of times because you have 1,000,000 mana, you can do that. You have 1,000,000 mana, you can do things like Expansion Explosion to blow up the table. You can Mystic Mastery and then cast 1,000,000 spells out of your graveyard. Super cool. Or you can just use the Slayer Stronghold to give all your creatures +2/+0 and Vigilance and Haste until end of turn endlessly. So you're going to give all your things as humongous power to just win the game. It's some of those Thopters that the Whirler Virtuoso makes, or maybe copies of things that Satya has made. You're going to be able to utilize all those and then crush your opponents using that. So those 2 cards right there are a surefire win, and you're looking to find them, and you're not just running them out there for value. Very rarely would you do that. So This is a pretty interesting deck, and because of the fact that cards are super niche, because you're playing energy-related cards, it's reasonably affordable to find and pick it up. But it's a really fun deck. I really enjoy playing it. It's kind of tricksy. Sometimes it doesn't really do much, and it's a bit of a letdown. But I really enjoy playing it, and so hopefully you give it a look. If you want to check out the check out the list, you can check the show notes down below. You can see the whole list there. It fits in the bracket 3. Because it has a couple of infinite combos in the late stages of the game, it fits in bracket 3 more so than a bracket 2. There's still some upgrades you can make to it if you wanted to buy the energy precons that have already floating around. You could do that as well too. All right. So, as always, folks, thanks very much for sticking around. If you enjoyed the content, please click the like button, subscribe so you get more of our updates from the channel. Or check out our show each and every week. The link is in the show notes down below too, and you can absolutely join us each and every week for the weekly podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. All right, everybody, thanks very much. Have a good one. Catch you later.